Nayasyarta Saragamai Sakshanushreyasatmanaha Naivasarebhyo Vidvesho Nurvegaschagumasyani Nayasyarta Saragamai Sakshanushreyasatmanaha Word for word, please repeat. Na, not. He, certainly. Asya, his. Arta, benefit. Interest. Suraganai, with the demigods. Sakshat, personally. Nishreyasa, of the highest bliss. Atmanaha, whose nature. Na, not. Eva, certainly. Asarebhyaha, for the demons. Vidveshaha, envy. Na, not. Udvega, fear. Cha, and. Agunasya, who possesses no material qualities. He, certainly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. Lord Vishnu himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all pleasure. Therefore, what benefit would he derive from siding with the demigods? What interest would he fulfill in this way? Since the Lord is transcendental, why should he fear the asuras, and how could he be envious of them? Purport. We should always remember the distinction between spiritual and material. That which is material is infected by material qualities, but these qualities cannot touch that which is spiritual or transcendental. Krishna is absolute, whether he is in the material world or spiritual world. When we see partiality in Krishna, this vision is due to his external energy. Otherwise, how could his enemies attain salvation after being killed by him? Everyone who deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead gradually acquires the qualities of the Lord. The more one advances in spiritual consciousness, the less he is affected by the duality of material qualities. The Supreme Lord, therefore, must certainly be freed from these qualities. His enmity and friendship are external features presented by the material energy. He is always transcendental. He is absolute, whether he kills or bestows his favor. Envy and friendship arise in one who is imperfect. We fear our enemies because in the material world we are always in need of help. The Lord, however, does not need anyone's help, for he is Atmarama. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparitam ashnami prayatat manaha. If a devotee offers me with devotion a little leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I shall accept it. Why does the Lord say this? Is he dependent on the offering of the devotee? He is not actually dependent, but he likes to be dependent upon his devotee. This is his mercy. Similarly, he does not fear the asuras. Thus, there is no question of partiality in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. I'll just read the translation again. Lord Vishnu himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all pleasure. Therefore, what benefit would he derive from siding with the demigods? What interest would he fulfill in this way? Since the Lord is transcendental, why should he fear the asuras? And how could he be envious of them? So, for those who don't know me, my name is Kunja Vandana Devidasi, and I'm from New Zealand originally, but I live in Los Angeles now with my husband, Roger Kamuda. And I hope you can all send your mental well wishes that I can say something relevant for all of us on today's verse. So here we are. I'm sure you all know the backstory. We've just finished the 6th canto, and now Parikshit Maharaj is asking about the Lord seemingly being partial to one side. It seems that he's siding with Indra. So I like how in the purport Prabhupada says that in material life we are always in need of help. This is why we have envy and friendship, because we pick sides in material life considering if I go with this side or this person or this party or this idea, there will be benefit for me. And whereas the opposing side will bring distress for me or harassment or inauspiciousness, whatever it is. So because we are seeing through the lens of the external energy, this is seeing through Krishna's material energy, we perceive that there will be personal benefits from one side and threats from another side. So happiness and distress, the dualities of the material world. And so it says, Lord Vishnu is the reservoir of all pleasure, therefore, what benefit would he derive from siding with the demigods? What interest would he fulfill in this way? If Krishna is Atmarama, he's fully self-satisfied. He doesn't need to choose sides like us, like conditioned souls. We're always struggling in this material world to feel fulfilled, ultimately. So we are always looking for, how can I find an advantage? How can I get a leg up in the material world? But Krishna doesn't need that. Everything he does is all perfect. So whether he's siding with this side or that side, there's benefit for everyone, just as it says here. Otherwise, how could his enemies get liberation after he kills them, after being killed by them? So in the material world, everything is a duality. And I was thinking, I don't know where this is quoted, but often it's said that politics is like the tail of an alligator or a crocodile. So at one moment it's swinging this way, and then the next moment it'll swing the other way. So there are so many things to get upset about in the material world, especially if we look at today's society. There's so many wars going on and just everyday sufferings of people. Like recently in the USA, but especially in California right now, the ICE agents are cracking down on people from people who don't have like the legitimate visas to be here, and also people who do. Sometimes it's not fair. I've been seeing in the news that people are unfairly treated. They're put into small rooms where there are bathroom stalls right there in the room. Maybe 30, 40 men have to sleep in there on the floor together. So the conditions are inhumane. at most. And some people who came to our studio the other week, they were telling us that there was a marijuana farm, you could say, where they're growing cannabis somewhere in California. So there were many immigrants there without the proper paperwork and visa. So the ICE agents raided the farm and they took all the people who many of were parents with children who were living on the farm, and then just left the children on the farm without any care. Nobody came to look after them or pick them up, just left them lying in the fields. So we could say, like, isn't it so unfair how some people are treated? Like this certain politician is choosing to crack down on these people. Why? Let's vote the other way. Let's put our energy in favor of the opposing party, and then there will be justice. Then there will be peace for people. But ultimately, it doesn't work like that. Even for the average American teenager who has the paperwork and visa to be here, still there is suffering going on. So much mental suffering among youth these days, loneliness. And we hear stories about how now teenagers are having relationships with AI because they can't interact with one another, or they have social anxiety or fears or traumas, whatever. So AI is becoming their best friend, literally, boyfriend, girlfriend, or best friend. And I even heard one really terrible story about one teenage boy who had a relationship with an AI character, and ultimately he ended his life because he felt that I'll never be able to be with this person. I'll never find someone who can reciprocate the way that this AI character could. I mean, his parents are trying to sue that AI company because in some ways they felt that the AI character encouraged him in that path. So it's, you could say, well, these people, why target these certain people? They have to suffer, these children now, they have no parents, they've been abandoned in the fields. On the other hand, those who are living happily in the USA are also suffering mentally. So if we really analyze it, especially through the eyes of Srimad Bhagavatam, suffering is ingrained, it's inbuilt in this material world. And so even as devotees, we experience suffering. It's not that it's all utopian and as soon as I join Krishna consciousness, all of these difficulties will go away. Everything that we are experiencing is our karmic package. And for the devotee, there's that verse, Tattenu kampam susimakshimano, punjana eva makritam vibhakam, Ridvag vibor vidarannamaste, jivetiyo mukti pade sadoyavak. So for those who patiently wait for Krishna to bestow his mercy, this is the mood of the devotee, that I understand that although I'm practicing Krishna consciousness and engaging in the processes of bhakti and devotional service, there will still be sufferings in this material world. So the devotee sees that these sufferings that come are actually due to something that I've done in my past, perhaps. It's something that I deserve, and Krishna's only giving me a tiny stick of what I really deserve. So devotees are not utopian, we also know. And because of Srimad Bhagavatam, we're given that vision. So I like how, as devotees, we can choose our battles. We could choose to get very upset about today's politics and all of the just injustices that are going on in the world. and pick sides and fight for this side and that side. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, that we should completely neglect to have a say in what goes on in the material world. As often said, try to be, as His Holiness Devanamrita Swami Raj says, we should try to be as happy as we can in a place where there is no happiness. So we have some level of influence. We can choose to vote for certain parties that may give advantage to our devotional service, ultimately, is what we're wanting to improve. Just like the other day, I was hearing a lecture, and Devamrita Raj was saying, if we're just looking for comfort and ease in the material world, then we've made our life unsuccessful. But if we are keeping the goal of self-realization in the center, and then we try to create a situation around that which is as comfortable and easy as possible, peaceful as possible, then that is the right way to view material advantages or trying to gain material happiness in this world. It's not that we want to be unhappy and just suffer or put ourselves through austerities unnecessarily, lie on a bed of nails or surround ourselves by fire, but that all of the choices that we make for our material comfort are just a way, kind of like a landing pad for our spiritual progress. Our self-realization is at the center, so that we can always remember that. So Prabhupada says, envy and friendship arise in one who is imperfect. We fear our enemies because in the material world we are always in need of help. So the wise devotee chooses to take help from the ultimate source of help, which is Krishna. And we can choose to put our energy into fighting the true ultimate enemy, which is material energy, or the reason that we're in this world. We can choose to, instead of picking sides within the material realm, why not get out and just exit this realm, which is ingrained, it's inbuilt to teach us lessons through suffering. So through the bhakti process, we can kind of peel back the layers or the lens of the external energy. And I've seen this in my own life, how we can still go through seemingly experiences where we have seemingly enemies. And I had this experience where one of my mentors was trying to show me that rather than trying to win the situation, prove like I'm right, I didn't do anything wrong, it's not my fault, why this is happening, why this person has mistreated me. But actually, she told me that try to see how your behavior through what you do, you can alter the situation, change it, and learn the lesson that you need to learn ultimately. So when I started to think like that in this situation, it became very clear that, you know, even though we are practicing Krishna consciousness, there may still be seemingly obstacles or enemies or whatever it is, people who are not such well-wishers. That's there, but the devotee is able to turn an obstacle into something that actually accelerates your spiritual progress, which is so cool because it's like bhakti just turns everything into auspiciousness. Anything seemingly bad can even become a good thing for a devotee because it impels us to move towards Krishna. That's if we are approaching it with the right. So we do need to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam to be reminded of the ultimate reality. We need guidance. So people, you know, when you're in a situation, it's hard to see from other angles. We just are conditioned to see things through our own lens. So taking guidance from seniors as well is so helpful. They can give you an alternative perspective, something that you didn't think of. And kind of, they see things from outside of your situation. And just also having a mood that, what I'm going through, I don't necessarily want it to be uh, through the false ego that let me come out on top, let everyone know that I was right and this other person was wrong, but more so in a mood of that, let me learn what I'm supposed to learn from this Krishna, because ultimately Krishna is in charge of everything. So whatever we're receiving, whatever we're experiencing in our devotional life is coming from Krishna, and Krishna is so intelligent. He knows exactly what we need to learn the lessons that we need to learn in this life. So at the end of the purport here, Prabhupada quotes the verse Patram Pushpam Phulam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tad Aham Bhakti Paritam Ashami Prayatatmanaha. That if a devotee offers me with devotion a little leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I shall accept it. Why does the Lord say this? Is he dependent on the offering of the devotee? He is not actually dependent, but he likes to be dependent upon his devotee. This is his mercy. So when I read this, I immediately thought of the deities, especially being here and seeing everybody worshipping Radha Damodar. Everything is centered around their pleasure, Gita Nagari farm. So it's like Krishna's kindness upon us that he comes in the form of the deity so that we can render some service to him. It's not that Krishna needs us to dress him. Krishna doesn't need us to feed him, to bathe him, to worship him, to be peaceful. He's already fully satisfied himself. But just to benefit those who are trying to be devotees or already devotees, the deity is there and we can render so much service to the deity. Those who are pujaris know how much energy and time it takes to serve Radha Damodar, I'm sure. So that's one thing I was thinking of, that kindness of Krishna, he comes as the deity. Krishna comes as Srimad Bhagavatam. If we didn't have these books, we really wouldn't know what exactly we're doing. It would just all be ritualistic. It would be just something we believe in, put some faith in. But when we read Prabhupada's books, everything seems to come to life, and we are given that ultimately it's the highest vision through which the acharyas see. So that's also Krishna's kindness. And in the Nectar of Devotion, it's said that Krishna is controlled by love. That's one of his qualities that Rupa Goswami explains in the Nectar of Devotion. So I thought I would just read a little bit about that quality of Krishna. Because he's controlled by love, that's why he likes to be dependent on his devotees. Just like in after the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna is like just about to go back to Dwarka, back to his palace, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj asks him to just stay a little longer. So he ends up staying like a few more months in Hastinapura just to please his devotees. That's Krishna's pleasure, to give happiness to his devotees, and he's obliged in that way because of their love. So let's read a little from the Nectar of Devotion about Krishna and his dependency, his being controlled by love. So number 40, controlled by love. Krishna becomes obliged to the loving spirit of the devotee and not exactly to the service rendered. I like that sentence because it's like more of the mood in which we do the service. The service itself does not have to be perfect. We don't have to be expert magicians in all that we do, but it's the loving spirit, the mood in which it's done, which obliges Krishna. No one can serve Krishna completely. He is so complete and self-sufficient that he has no need of any service from the devotee. It is the devotee's attitude of love and affection for Krishna that makes him obliged. A very nice example of this obligatory behavior was manifested when Sudama Vipra went to Krishna's palace. Sudama Vipra had been a class friend of Krishna's, and due to his poverty, he was induced by his wife to see Krishna to request some aid. When Sudama Vipra reached Krishna's palace, Krishna received him very well, and both he and his wife washed the feet of Sudama Vipra, showing respect to the Brahmana. Remembering his loving affairs with Sudama in their childhood, Krishna began to shed tears while receiving him. Another instance of Krishna's obligation to his devotee is described in the 10th canto, 9th chapter, verse 18 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Shukadev Goswami tells King Parikshit, "My dear king, when Mother Yashoda was perspiring, tired of trying to bind Krishna up with rope, Krishna agreed to allow her to bind him. Krishna, as a child, was disturbing his mother by his naughty activities, and she wanted to bind him up. Mother Yashoda brought some rope from the house and tried to tie up the child, but she could not tie a knot due to the shortness of the rope. She tied together many ropes, but when she finished, still the rope was too short. After a while, she felt very tired and began to perspire. At that time, Krishna agreed to be bound up by his mother. In other words, no one can bind Krishna by any means other than love. He is bound only by obligation to his devotees because of their ecstatic love for him." So it's very beautiful to hear about this, because through the influence of material energy, often we're looking for those external results. We're looking for success which is measurable, which we can see, which others can see. And I know all ultimately we want to please the spiritual master, but sometimes we can have that sort of external vision. But here, Mother Yashoda is continuously failing, it seems, in tying up Damodar with the rope. But just as soon as she becomes extremely tired, she starts to perspire, then Krishna is obliged to her for that love. So the real success in our devotional service is not always the outcome. That's fully in Krishna's hands anyway. But our success is really in that endeavor, the internal fire, like Maharaj was saying in the weekend. It's that internal flame of desire which is most important. Externally, we may look like we're doing the same thing as any other karmic worker, you could say. But internally, the devotee has some spiritual enthusiasms and spiritual desires which we are trying to win over Krishna's love with ultimately. So the purport ends with, "Thus there is no question of partiality in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because Krishna is ultimately just trying to fulfill everybody's interest and please the devotees. And although Krishna is not partial to any side, he does say that Samoham sarvabhuteshu na me dvesho stina priyaha ye bhajanti tamam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor I am partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him." So that's natural, actually, as persons. When people are well-wishers of us, naturally the heart becomes well-wishing back. There's a natural exchange of love there. So for any person, just like we are tiny little parts of Krishna, so Krishna is that ultimate person who he's equal to all, he says, but if one is going to love me, I can't help but love them back. It's so natural. So Yes, Krishna comes as the deity to give us service, and also the Sankirtan movement as well. We have so much service to do there in terms of spreading Krishna consciousness, sharing Krishna with others. Krishna has given us so much service. The acharyas have left us unlimited amounts of service in which we can try to receive the mercy of Krishna. So that's all I've prepared. I'll stop here and see if there's any questions, comments. Hare Krishna.
Aspect of the Lord of commercial. Okay, so the Lord is a Lord people living peace or further with even one of the takes out and but we know that this other instances the demands are more powerful than the demons, so somewhere in certain instances they are dying. So because when the materials one would be like sometimes you have good time and something about that. But idea is all Krishna knows certain things happening.
Say that again.
All does it? Why does Krishna allow certain things happen? For example, the situation when the accidents came to the parents and the children. Who look after children? We're going to say the material reality it is what it is. Also, as the idea of whatever Lord does, absolutely. Now, we say it our man, but in terms of me, it's absolutely. It's for.
Yeah. Why does Krishna allow certain things to happen? Well, that example with the ice agents and the children, Lord's hand is not, to some degree, it's there because everybody is receiving their karma. So whether those children were abandoned in the field in this way, if that didn't happen, there would be some sort of other suffering. Why is one born in a poor family, another in a rich family? So that karmic package is just already there. We will receive what we're due. But for someone who takes to Krishna consciousness, then the Lord personally is involved, personally. Otherwise, we're receiving through material nature our karma. But for the devotee, it says in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna personally comes riding on Garuda to take the devotee back to Godhead. It's not that Krishna is not taking a personal interest in our life. It's very humbling and amazing to think like that. Even for the brand new devotee, Krishna is changing our karmic package. Does that answer your question?
Yes, also, if we are fortunate, here was future with the stories. Further, those children are fortunate to be born with families. So at an early age, they remember the situation of realizing that. And you will understand, so when you become older, you're saying, for example, it is said that when a devotee gets in a situation where he said it is bad, the devotee said to himself, well, I'm getting less than I deserve. Yes. And then when he's good, he said, well, I'm getting more than I deserve. So it's important for them to the age and feel these kind of instructions, so you will not be suffered over. Yes. And why it's important to be in a social motives, so that for example, regular hearing with the hearing and Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures, that one is not at home. So these guys are very important.
Yeah.
Regular hearing and speaking to the hearing process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And so that's so true, so much, at least for myself, I'm sure everyone can agree, like when we come to Krishna consciousness, because we are hearing that Krishna is in charge of everything, so much anxiety and fear can be taken away just because we can sometimes just surrender to that, knowing that, okay, whatever the outcome may be, Krishna ultimately is controlling that. Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
Something interesting. I was thinking about when you mentioned the Damodar Leela, how, she was always a little too short with the rope. And it was only when she started perspiring that Krishna agreed to let her tie him up. Seems like he likes to do that. I think of Prahlad Maharaj when he got pushed off the cliff, Vishnu saved him when he started to get close to the ground.
Yeah.
And even Srila Prabhupada, the whole Jew thing, everything was going bad, and how he sold the deed to the land. It was like a mess. And then, well, Mr. N died, and then somehow or other Prabhupada, or really Krishna, made the woman who was his wife break down and say, "I'm sorry, I'll sell it to you." That's interesting. Krishna always seems to wait until things are like really tough to see if you're like really gonna keep pushing, and he saves you the day.
Yeah, Krishna is the ultimate drama king. And even, I don't know, I used to experience on book distribution days like that, where, we struggling all day, and all the hours would go by of the struggle. And then suddenly at the end of the day, it was always like this for me. At the very end of the day, the books would go out. So that struggle all the day on the street, and then Krishna's mercy just comes. Okay. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki